If you're anything like me, you know what shame can do to the spirit. It's sneaky. It creeps in like smoke under a door. You don't always see it coming. You don't always recognize it. But before you know it, it's in the room. It's in your head. And suddenly, you're second-guessing everything. Your trades, your strategy, yourself. Like somehow, you're the mistake. Not the setup, not the market, not the risk you calculated. It's you. And that feeling, that whisper in the back of your head saying, you're just not cut out for this? Yeah, that's shame. Shame isn't just some dramatic emotion you see in therapy scenes on TV. Shame's the voice that shows up after a red day, not just to remind you that you lost money, but to quietly ask if maybe you're the kind of person who always will. It's that uncomfortable weight you feel when your partner asks, "How's trading going?" And you flinch, wondering if they'll think you're wasting your life, or worse, if they already do. Let's be real. Traders don't just lose money, we lose pride, we lose certainty, and we don't always talk about that. I mean, when was the last time you heard someone post a loss and say, "Hey, here's what I'm ashamed about today"? Doesn't really trend on social media, right? But here's the thing. Nobody wants to say out loud. Most of us carry some form of shame, especially in trading, especially when the people around us don't get it. And when the wins don't show up fast enough, when consistency still feels like a distant promise, we start to think, maybe the problem is me. You see, shame isn't just about guilt. Guilt says, I did something wrong. Shame says, I am something wrong. It's personal, it's sticky, it lingers. It's not just about the trade you blew up. It's about the voice that says, of course you blew it. You always do. That voice might not even be yours. That's the part that messes people up. A lot of us carry voices that sound like ours but come from somewhere else. Maybe a parent who said you'd never amount to anything unless you followed the right path. Maybe a teacher who rolled their eyes when you dreamed big. Maybe a friend or partner who subtly questions every hour you put into this trading thing. And over time, those voices blend into yours. And suddenly, it's not just doubt, it's identity. I know this might sound dramatic, but if you've ever hidden a trading loss like it was a crime scene, if you've ever felt more embarrassed than frustrated when you had a red day, if you've ever thought, maybe I just don't have what it takes, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And let me pause here because someone's probably thinking, so what? Shame is part of the game. Everyone deals with it. Toughen up. And yeah, sure, there's truth in that. But there's also danger, because shame doesn't just make you feel bad, it changes how you act. You might start avoiding trades, or revenge trading to prove something to yourself, to your partner, to the voice in your head. You might stop reviewing your losses because looking at them just hurts too much. You might even consider quitting, not because you hate trading, but because you hate how it makes you feel about yourself. And that's when shame wins. Now, let me tell you something strange. Shame isn't always the enemy. I know, wild twist. But hear me out. Shame, in its purest form, is a signal. It's part of our emotional wiring. It's there to nudge us toward being better. It's the feeling that says, you can do more. You can be more. The problem is, it gets hijacked. Instead of pointing us toward growth, it chains us to self-doubt. Instead of inspiring action, it paralyzes us. Imagine this. There's a fire. Used properly, it can warm you, cook your food, light your way. But let it burn unchecked, and it'll destroy everything in its path. Shame's like that. You've got to learn how to control the flame, and that starts by understanding where it's really coming from. A lot of traders think they feel shame because of the money, the loss, the drawdown, but most of the time, it's deeper than that. It's not about losing $100, it's about what that loss means to you. Maybe it means you're failing at being the provider. Maybe it means your dream of quitting your job is slipping away. Maybe it means your family was right to doubt you. Or maybe it just hits a nerve from a different time when you felt small or judged or not enough. See, shame wears 1,000 masks. For some, it's perfectionism, never feeling like your setup is ready, so you keep tweaking instead of executing. For others, it's silence. never asking questions or joining communities because you're afraid of sounding dumb. Sometimes it shows up as anger, at the market, at other traders, at yourself. But under all those masks, it's the same fear. What if I'm not good enough? Let's take a breath here, because I know some of this might be hitting deep. It's supposed to. That's the point. Because naming shame is the first step to disarming it. Shame thrives in secrecy. It grows in silence. But when you speak it, when you look it in the eye, it starts to lose its power. Now, here's the twist most people don't expect. You don't fix shame by ignoring it. You don't beat it by pretending it's not there. You face it, you trace it back, you ask, whose voice is this? And then you decide if you still want to keep listening to it. There's a quote I love: shame dies when stories are told in safe places. That's why some traders make massive breakthroughs not from technical tweaks, but from emotional healing, from therapy, from honest conversations, from saying, yeah, I blew that trade. And I still belong here. You belong here. That's not a motivational poster phrase. That's real. You are allowed to struggle. You're allowed to lose. You're allowed to doubt. But you are not defined by those things. You're defined by what you do next. So let me ask you something. Where has shame been running the show in your life? Is it in how you hesitate to take trades because you're scared of being wrong? Is it in how you feel every time someone asks, so, how's that trading going? Is it in the way you talk to yourself after a loss, like a disappointed coach or a bitter enemy? Because once you start noticing that voice, you get to challenge it. You get to say, maybe that's not my voice. Maybe that's not my truth. And yeah, I know, easier said than done, but it starts small. With awareness, with compassion, with choosing just once not to beat yourself up after a mistake, with choosing just once to share your experience without filtering it for pride, with choosing just once to speak back to the voice that says you're not enough and say, actually, I am, I'm learning, I'm improving, and I'm not giving up. That's power, that's growth, that's how shame loses its grip. And if you're sitting there thinking, yeah, but I've messed up so many times, I'll say it again. You're not your red days. You're not your past trades. You're not your worst moment. You're a work in progress. So is everyone else. All right, pause right here. Let's go a little deeper. Because shame doesn't just affect how we feel, it directly rewires how we trade. I've seen it. You've probably felt it. Think about this. Have you ever held on to a losing trade too long? Not because your plan said to, but because closing it would mean admitting you were wrong? That's shame. Or maybe you rushed into a trade because you were trying to make up for the last loss? That's not strategy. That's shame with a mouse and a monitor. Shame doesn't want logic. Shame wants validation. It wants to feel like it's not failing. So it makes you react, not respond. You'll abandon your edge, your risk parameters, your patience, just to soothe that burning feeling in your gut that says, you're screwing this up again. And it goes further. Shame is a master shapeshifter. Some days it looks like fear. You can't even hit the buy button because you're afraid of being wrong again. Other days, it's overconfidence. You think, I have to win today, like the market owes you something. And sometimes, it's just silence. You pull away. You stop reviewing trades. You stop journaling, you stop showing up fully, because looking at your mistakes is like rubbing salt into your self-worth. That's not a trading problem, that's a shame problem. Let me ask you something hard. Have you ever been more afraid of what people will think than the actual loss itself? Like, imagine losing $200 on a trade. Sure, it stings. But what really twists the knife is your cousin asking over dinner. So, how's that stock thing going? And you know they don't actually want to know. They want confirmation. Confirmation that they were right to play it safe. Right to call trading a gamble. Right to think you were chasing a fantasy. That's where shame starts to wrap around your identity like a vine. It's not just about the trade. It becomes about your worth, your path, your potential. But here's the thing. Shame lies. It tells you that your worth is tied to your wins, that if you're not consistent yet, you're not a real trader, that if you're struggling, it's because you're broken. But that's a trap. And the market doesn't care about your shame. It only responds to your behavior, your ability to adapt, to manage risk, to execute without emotional noise. If shame is making your decisions for you, the market will punish that. Every time. So what do? The first step is catching shame in the act, naming it, noticing the pattern. When you hesitate before entering a trade, ask yourself, am I following my plan or am I protecting my ego? When you take a trade right after a big loss, ask yourself, am I chasing setup quality or redemption? When you hide your P&L from everyone, even your journal, ask, am I being objective or avoiding a story I don't want to face? Naming the pattern is how you steal shame's invisibility cloak. And once you see it, you can start separating it from who you are. Because here's something no one tells you, shame thrives when we confuse performance with identity. Think about athletes, artists. They don't get to judge yours. If someone's never lost money in pursuit of mastery, their opinion of your losses means nothing. Protect your mental capital the same way you protect your trading capital. And while we're at it, let's talk about social media. Because wow, if shame had a favorite playground, it'd be Instagram and Twitter. You scroll through and see these perfect equity curves, highlight reels, $1,000 days, and you start thinking, why am I not there yet? What am I doing wrong? You forget that most people are curating their wins and hiding their shame. You're comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's edited movie trailer. That's not a fair fight. Don't measure your journey by someone else's milestone. The goal isn't to be perfect, it's to be progressing, and real progress doesn't always look sexy. Sometimes it's boring, sometimes it's slow, sometimes it's full of tiny, painful lessons that don't fit in a tweet. But every time you show up, review your trades, journal honestly, admit your mistakes, and keep going. That's success. That's what growth looks like. Now, let's talk about the hidden cost of not dealing with shame. Because yeah, sure, it hurts emotionally, but it also damages your edge. When shame drives your decisions, you're not trading your system, you're trading your fear. And the more shame you carry, the harder it is to stick to your plan. Imagine trying to hold a trade through drawdown while your inner voice is screaming, "You're screwing it up again!" That's not execution, that's mental sabotage. And every time you let shame dictate your behavior, you reinforce the belief that you can't trust yourself. That's dangerous, because trust is everything in trading. You can't trust your system if you don't trust your own mind. And you can't trust your mind if it's constantly hijacked by shame. So, how do we rebuild that trust? Step 1, compassion. Yeah, I said it. Not strategy, not indicators, compassion. Because shame doesn't go away with punishment, it heals through kindness. You've got to learn how to treat yourself like you treat a trader you care about. You'd never tell a friend, "You're such a failure. Why are you even trying?" So why is that your default voice for yourself? Talk to yourself like someone who matters. Because you do. Step 2, accountability. Not in a guilt trip way. In a growth-focused way. Track your trades, journal your thoughts. But more importantly, journal your emotions. Where did shame show up today? What triggered it? How did you react? What story did it tell you? This isn't therapy fluff, it's emotional data. The same way you collect price data, you collect mind data. Step 3, community. Find spaces where you can speak honestly. Shame dies in daylight. Whether it's a trading group, a mentor, a friend, a therapist, don't keep your struggles in isolation. Share them. Let someone else say, yeah, me too. That moment of connection, it's like oxygen. And step 4, redefine what success means. If your only win condition is green days, you're setting yourself up for emotional instability. Define success by actions you control. Did you follow your plan? Did you manage your risk? Did you walk away when you said you would? That's success. Stack those wins. Let them compound. All right, time to take a breath. Let's keep going. Because there's a side of shame that most traders never talk about. It's the cultural shame, the inherited kind, the type that doesn't come from your trades but from how you were raised, where you grew up, or who you were told you had to be. Let's say your parents come from a background where stability equals safety. Maybe they worked hard, played it safe, followed rules. And now here you are, sitting at a desk with charts open, taking risks they don't understand, trying to master a game they think is reckless. And every time you lose money, even if it's just part of the plan, it feels like you're failing them, like you're dishonoring their sacrifices, like you're not living up to some invisible standard. That's not just pressure, that's cultural shame, and it doesn't always show up directly. It's subtle. It's the look your dad gives you when you say you're still figuring it out. It's the silence your mom gives you when you say, I want to trade full time. It's the casual comments at family gatherings. Still doing that stock thing? That sound like jokes but land like darts. And over time, you internalize it. Even if no one's saying it out loud, you hear the message. This isn't real, this isn't smart, this isn't respectable, and every red day confirms that narrative. See, you're playing games. See, you should have done what they said. And boom, shame locks in like a vice. Now here's where it gets tricky, because this kind of shame doesn't just sit in your mind, it gets into your identity. You start building beliefs around it. Beliefs like, I have to prove them wrong, or I'll only be respected when I hit 6 figures, or if I don't make it fast, I'll have to go back to being normal. And that mindset becomes poison. You're no longer trading to execute well, you're trading to validate your entire existence. That's a heavy weight to put on a moving market. And eventually, something breaks. So let's do something different. Let's talk about releasing that shame. You are allowed to define success on your own terms. You are allowed to pursue a path that's unfamiliar to your family. You are allowed to be misunderstood. Trading is not a popularity contest. You don't need everyone to get it. You just need to be aligned with your own truth. And if your truth is that you're in this for the long haul to master yourself, to create freedom, to build something real, then let that be enough. That's your anchor, not the applause, not the profit posts, not the timelines others project onto you. Let me tell you something personal. There was a time in my own journey when I avoided telling people what I did. Not because I was ashamed of trading itself, but because I couldn't stand the way they reacted. The judgment, the confusion, the jokes, the pity. And that silence became armor. I started isolating myself, not just socially, but emotionally. I thought, if I just get good enough, if I just make enough, then they'll stop questioning me. Then I'll feel proud. But guess what? Even when the money came in, the shame didn't magically disappear. Because it was never about the numbers. It was about the story I'd attached to them, the idea that I needed external proof to feel internal peace. That's the trap. That's the lie. Your peace isn't on the other side of profit. It's on the other side of acceptance. When you finally say, this is who I am, this is what I've chosen, and I'm proud of the process, not just the result. Now let's talk about identity. because shame loves to twist identity. There's this archetype of the real trader we see online. You know the one. Wakes up at 4 a.m. Green every week. Ultra disciplined. No emotions, no Netflix, drinks water, breathes candles, studies the market 18 hours a day. And if that's not you, you start to feel like a fraud. But here's the truth. That trader doesn't exist, or if they do, they're probably lying or miserable. Real traders are human. They mess up. They overtrade sometimes. They hesitate. They backslide. But they keep coming back. They grow. They own their flaws. They adapt. That's what makes them real. Not perfection, but persistence. So if you're out here thinking, I'm not disciplined enough, or I'm too emotional, or I'm not a morning person, pause. That's shame talking, not truth. The goal isn't to become a robot. The goal is to build a system that fits who you are, one you can actually live with, one that supports your psychology instead of fighting it. You're not trying to become someone else. You're trying to become a better version of you. Now let's get even more honest. Some of you are carrying shame because you think you should be further along. You're thinking, I've been studying for a year. I should be consistent by now. Or, I've been paper trading forever. I should be making real money. And when you're not, you spiral. Let me challenge that. Who told you how long it should take? Who sold you that timeline? Probably someone trying to sell a course. The truth is, trading mastery takes time. It takes reps. It takes mistakes. You don't just read a book and suddenly master the mental game. You don't just watch a webinar and develop perfect risk management. It's a craft, a journey, and shame will rob you of the patience you need to walk it. Because shame whispers, you're behind. Everyone else is ahead. You'll never catch up. But the market isn't a race. It's a mirror. It reflects your psychology, your patterns, your choices. And if you're operating from shame, that reflection gets warped. So instead of asking, why am I not there yet? Try asking, what am I learning right now? Instead of saying, I should be better, say, I'm improving every day. Rewire the narrative. You can't think your way out of shame. You have to act your way out. With repetition, with intention, with compassion. Let's zoom out for a second. Shame is an ancient emotion. Evolutionary psychologists say it's wired into us for survival. In small tribes, being shamed meant being cast out. So we learn to internalize rules, to avoid rejection, to seek approval. Fast forward to now, and we're still doing it. But instead of tribes, it's Twitter, it's Reddit, it's your cousin with the finance degree. But you don't live in a cave. You live in a modern world. You get to choose your tribe. You get to decide which values matter to you. You get to rewrite the rules. So here's a radical idea. What if you decided that struggling doesn't mean failing? What if you decided that trying and failing is braver than never trying at all? What if you saw shame not as a stop sign, but as a signal that you're stretching beyond comfort? Because growth isn't quiet. It's messy. It's awkward. It brings all your stuff to the surface. And shame? Shame is just part of that. It's like emotional lactic acid. It burns, but it means you're moving. And yeah, some of that shame isn't even yours. It's inherited, it's absorbed, it's projected. So start asking, whose voice is this? When you hear, you're not smart enough, or you're irresponsible, or you'll never make it, whose voice is that? Is it a parent? A teacher? A stranger on YouTube? And then ask, do I still believe that? Do I want to? Because that's how healing starts. With curiosity. With questions. With slow, steady honesty. And the more you practice that, the lighter shame becomes. It loses its grip. It becomes a companion instead of a captor, a signal instead of a sentence. All right, deep breath. If you keep chasing new strategies after strategies, maybe what you need is clarity. Make sure to watch the next video.